Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tim, and this is another Real Ideal Gear review. And today we're going to be reviewing the Zelos Aurora Titanium Field Watch. This watch has been on my list as far as a pre-order, and I've been waiting for this to actually hit the sale back in, I think it was late July, if I remember right. And I was all ready to go. Ordered my watch and got it in, and I'm looking it over, and I really, really like this watch. When I looked it over online prior to the actually getting it in hand, I thought this was going to be a 10 out of 10. There were so many qualities about this watch that were just home runs. Let's go through this watch, the 5 things that I typically go through, which is size, fitment, finish, accuracy, and then legibility and lume. So let's start off with size. It's a 38 millimeter dial. So it's right in that sweet spot for a field watch. I prefer like a 39. 40 is kind of getting a little bit big. My SWC bunker is a 41. It's a little bit too big if you ask me, but there's, you kind of give and take on some of these watches because of the way they're designed. And it does give a little bit of a different feel when you have a larger dial. A lot easier to read as well. So 38 millimeter dial, 12 mil thick, which makes it just a little bit thicker than I like as well. And I'm not sure if that has to do with the 200 meters of water resistance. But it's a little bit thicker than I'd like. The overall weight of this watch is titanium, so it's lightweight. It's that metal case, but it doesn't feel like the steel version of the same or a similar size watch. So it's lighter than the steel in that regard. It's a titanium grade 2, but it also has this hardness coating here that it knocks it out of the park. We'll talk about that in the finishing aspect. So overall size, I love it. I love the bracelet itself. It's going to fit the extra large wrist. So if you have a hard time finding watches that fit your extra large wrist, this might be the watch to check out for you. Because I took out 4 links on this, and I was surprised how much bracelet there was to work with. So it has the fully adjustable clasp. So let's get into fitment. So now fitment wise, this watch, you can make this thing fit no problem. Screw link removal, and which is great, easy to do. The adjust on the fly clasp. I love those things. I think whenever there's a watch that has that, I am immediately interested to see more. It's almost the hook for me when it comes down to just watches that I enjoy wearing. So a very comfortable watch to wear, excellent fitment. The proportions I think are good. I think it's just a little bit thick, but that's okay. Every watch, every brand has its own take on the field watch, and you kind of got to go with it. And I think variety is also good, especially if you have a multi-watch collection or multiple field watches. Having a watch that may be a little bit thicker is fine. So don't get caught up in the proportions too much. Work with the proportions a little bit. So the finish, this is where this watch is off the charts. I mean, off the charts. The dial is fantastic. It has like a metal flake dial. It is, I want to say it reminds me of the metal flake paint finishes of sports cars back in the 70s when metal flake, maybe it's 60s. I was a 70s child. So that really is, I think, what kind of best describes the finish of this blue fume dial. It goes to black on the edges. It is this fantastic transition. It has this kind of granular sandpaper deal, but it's not sandpaper. It's like metal flake. It has this reflective quality that when you have light at an angle in kind of a darker setting, kind of a direct light, you get these little tiny reflective dots that show up and disappear as the light moves. And I'll show you some pictures of that as well. But I think the finish is just fantastic. The fume dial, the polishing, there is no polish on here. It's a field watch, and I think that part fits the bill for a field watch to a T. Zero polish. It's intended to be worn in rougher conditions. Okay. That contrasted with the dial. The dial is, I'm not so sure this fits the field watch character or qualities of a field watch when it comes down to the dial design itself. Great dial design. Indices are fantastic. They're the 1236 are really easy to see, outlined in a high polish finish. You've got the lume in the middle, and contrast that to the black, because at the edges it turns to black. That transition from the center being dark blue to a black on the edges. Great transition, great finish. The handset on here is outstanding. The second hand is yellow on the end, on the tip, which I chose. That was the clincher for this watch particularly, was the second hand. And I'll talk about more of that when we get to legibility. But then there's also this minute track that goes around. The minute track is apparently, and I say apparently because the dial itself is raised, but then there's slots that are, slots that have been cut for the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7, 8, 10, 11. Those are all sandwich dial slots in the dial itself. The minute track is the same thing. It's recessed around this raised metallic flake finished fume dial. Fantastic design. I absolutely love the dial on this. And I think that's what caught my eye, was the dial. So just outstanding that way. The titanium case is a grade 2 titanium case, has a 1200 hardness a coating on there, so scratches are not an issue. I've worn this a lot, and there are 0 scratches on the clasp. There are 0 scratches on the bezel. Sapphire crystal. This thing can be worn in a lot of different conditions. If this was to be an everyday watch, you could easily wear this every day and have absolutely minimal scratches. You'd have to really do something to it to scratch this watch, in my opinion. So just excellent, excellent size, excellent fitment, excellent finish. Everything about this watch, the finishing on this is great. There's lume on the crown. The crown has a great grippiness to it. It's a larger crown. It sticks out a little bit, maybe a little bit more than I'd like, but at the same time, I don't worry too much about that, especially for a screw-in crown, because it gets screwed into the case, so it becomes very tough that way. You really got to bang it onto something to knock that crown out of position. Plus, there's some minimal crown guards on the sides around the crown, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. Let's talk about the accuracy. This is a high beat movement. This is a Miyota 9039. So this is the movement that does not have the day date. So it goes directly from hacking and hand winding to adjusting the time. So there is no ghost date that you have to worry about, which is great. As far as the accuracy on the time grapher, well within specs, not an issue. When you start moving up the ladder of higher beat movements, higher end movements, you tend to have fewer and fewer issues upon initial receipt of a watch as far as accuracy goes, and this is no exception to that. So accuracy is great. It's where it should be. Let's talk about legibility and lume. Legibility, off the charts legible. But I think you have to be careful about if you're looking for used ones, because now these are all sold out. The Aurora Titanium Field Watch from Zelos is sold out across the board. This watch, I think it took 1.5 to 2 days to sell out. And there was some others that sold out within, I think, minutes, maybe an hour. So keep that in mind when you're looking for a used one or one that's already been purchased. It's new and maybe it has tags and whatnot. But keep your eye on just the overall combination of colors, the handset, and all those things to make sure that the legibility that you're looking for is there. One of the key factors for me was not only the fume dial, because you end up with black on the edges, but it was also looking at the second hand. And some of these titanium versions have a second hand that blends in with the dial color. I'm trying to think of some that were like orange on orange. There was a blue on purple, which was okay. It was a light blue on purple, I should say. It was okay. This was yellow on blue, black, because it kind of covers that transition zone on the watch. That to me was like, that's the clincher, because I wanted to make sure I could see the second hand and where that was at in case I needed to time something, by the second. So to me, that legibility was great. You have the white indices on the fume dial, which is black, great contrast. The 12369, as far as orientation purposes, is good. I wish the 12 was a little different from the 369. I just prefer that because I just want to make sure that the 12 stands out from the other positions as far as orienting it correctly, especially in the dark. Especially in the dark after the lume is wearing off. So maybe it's 4 or 5 hours, so it's like 3 or 4 in the morning, and you look at your watch, like, what time is it? You got the 4 positions. It shouldn't be an issue. This is minor. I'm not dinging this watch for that reason, but it is something that I want to point out. Lume. Is this all-night lume? Yes. Is it awesome lume? Not quite. I think it doesn't hold a candle to the SWC bunker when it comes down to all-night lume, say 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. SWC is much brighter than the Zelos is. And we'll put all the field watches together in another video on Lume just to see where all these watches fall. But from my initial testing on this and making sure that this has at least all-night capability, it does. So for me, check the box. It's better than some other ones. There was the, let's see, which one was it? The San Martin Pilot doesn't have the best lume. And there was a sport watch, I think it was the Pagani, which was virtually non-existent. Like, it lasted minutes, okay? So there's that extreme, okay? This is definitely in the area of it'll last all night. Also, there's lume on the crown, which I think is the coolest touch. I think when you add that touch to the design features, to me, I'm a lume nut. And part of it is because I want to be able to use the watch early in the morning or in dark situations when it's been dark for a while. So to me, there is a practical piece to it, but I think just that design feature, it's a nice touch to see that the crown has lume on it. So let's go through and summarize this whole thing up. What do we got going on here? The dings on this watch. It's this inability of this watch to really be a field watch. It looks more like a sport watch than it does a field watch, if you ask me. The brushed finish is great. That is total field watch vibe right there. But then when you look at the dial, it has this dressy feel to it. I don't think that fits the overall combination of a field watch, in my opinion. I just think it's trying to do too much. It's trying to cut too big a swath in this spectrum of how watches can be used and for what situations. Could you wear this as a semi-formal situation? I think it'd be a little bit more difficult, maybe semi-formal, because there is no polish to it. There is no shine on it whatsoever. So it has a tool watch feel, but the dial is amazing. I mean, the dial does not look like a tool watch. The dial looks like it definitely could be that semi-formal, casual, all the way into formal. Like if this thing was full polish, 904L steel, wow. Or even high polished titanium. You can polish titanium and get that really cool polished titanium look. This would be a fantastic dress watch. It'd be a fantastic sport watch with just a little bit of polish on there. I think if they could have put just a little bit of polish, at the base of the bezel right here, there's a little flat surface there, or maybe just on the top, or even put a little polish on the beveling on the inside part of the bracelet here. These are all opportunities, I think, that would have really helped when it comes down to making this watch more dressy or more field watch. If it was going to be more of a field watch, I think you have to work with the dial a little bit more to make it have that field component to it. It's just a little too dressy for me. So this is the ding on this watch. It's the only one for this watch. This watch is going to get a 9.8 out of 10 for sure. Okay. The high quality features of this watch, there's a whole list of them. Let's go through them real quick. You have this incredible dial. You have an incredible handset. The finishing on the dial with that kind of metallic flake finish is incredible. You have a great crown. It's lumed. You also have the adjustable clasp bracelet, the hardness coating. This thing is going to be a hard thing to scratch. 200 meters of water resistance, sapphire crystal, high beat movement, no date, 9039. So there's no ghost day or date on there. It goes right to adjusting the time. The legibility is incredible. It just doesn't match together. And so for a field watch, for me, it just doesn't hit the mark. So 9.8 out of 10. I'm going to stick with it for now. Put your comments down below as far as what you like of this watch. Now, what's the feature of this watch, or what's the result of this watch? I'm actually going to sell it. And I'm going to sell it because it doesn't fit for my taste when it comes down to a field watch. And when it comes down to a dress watch, it's not really a dressy watch either. So to me, it's in this kind of a weird spot for my taste. So I'm actually going to sell this watch. If you're interested in it, the only time I've worn this is for the review. I've probably worn it for a week. No heavy use on this one because it was something that after I looked at it for a little while before I started wearing it, I was like, I'm not so sure I'm going to keep this one because it just didn't have that, I'm going to keep that sensation or feeling in your head, or the conviction in your head. So this is a watch I'm going to sell. If you're interested in it, email me. Go to my description page for the channel and get my email. And email me if you're interested in it. It'll be sold at a higher price than the pre-order price because obviously this is a watch that's sold out. It's being sold for a lot higher than I'm going to sell it for. That's for sure. But if you're interested in it, we'll work it out through email and go that route. So do that if you're interested. So that's the end of the review. I really like the watch. I love all the qualities. If it's your cup of tea, great. Go for it. Look for them out there. There's plenty of them for sale out there. I'm sure a lot of people bought them at high quantities and now they're reselling them at a higher price. But it's a fantastic deal when it comes down to all of the characteristics in there. For me, just doesn't quite match up. So there you go. This is the review for the Zelos Aurora Titanium Field Watch. My name is Tim. This has been a Real Ideal Gear review, and we'll catch you guys next time.